The
should
rain
be.
hammered against the windshield as
You never
Marcus
listen
Penn
to
gripped the
me.
steering wheel,
I'm
his
tired
knuckles
of
white with
this.
tension. In the passenger seat, Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Industries and the woman who signed his paychecks, slumped against the window, mascara streaking down her porcelain cheeks. This wasn't how he'd imagined his Thursday night ending. He'd planned to pick up his 6-year-old daughter Emma from his mother's house, maybe read her favorite bedtime story about the brave knight who saved the kingdom. Instead, he was driving his intoxicated boss home because everyone else at the company gala had conveniently disappeared when she'd stumbled off the stage during her speech. Marcus had been working as a junior financial analyst at Ashford Industries for 2 years, barely scraping by on his salary while raising Emma alone. His ex-wife had left when Emma was just 2, deciding that motherhood wasn't the adventure she'd signed up for. Since then, every decision Marcus made revolved around his little girl, the light of his life, the reason he got up at 5 every morning and worked until his eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets. You're a good man, Marcus," Victoria slurred, her words tumbling over each other. "Too good for this place. Too good for me." He'd barely exchanged 10 words with Victoria Ashford in all his time at the company. She was a legend in the business world, the youngest female CEO to take a tech company public, a woman who'd built an empire from a startup in her garage. To everyone else, she was untouchable, perfect, intimidating. But tonight, she was just a broken woman who'd had too much champagne and not enough friends willing to help. "Let's just get you home safe, Ms. Ashford," Marcus said quietly, following the GPS directions to her address in the city's most exclusive neighborhood. When they arrived at her penthouse building, the doorman's eyes widened in surprise. Marcus helped Victoria inside, supporting most of her weight as she leaned heavily against him. She fumbled with her keys, dropping them twice before he gently took them and unlocked her door. The penthouse was exactly what he'd expected, sleek, modern, expensive, but also strangely empty. No family photos, no personal touches, just designer furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. He guided her to the couch, found a blanket to drape over her, and placed a glass of water and aspirin on the coffee table. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes finally focusing on his face. "Why are you being so nice to me?" Marcus thought about Emma, about how he'd want someone to help her if she ever needed it decades from now. "Because that's what decent people do," he said simply. "Get some rest, Ms. Ashford." He let himself out, drove home to relieve his mother from babysitting duty, and carried his sleeping daughter to bed. As he tucked Emma in, brushing a strand of dark hair from her forehead, he felt that familiar ache in his chest, the weight of being both mother and father, of never quite feeling like he was enough. The next morning, Marcus arrived at work early as usual, expecting nothing to change. In his experience, powerful people rarely remembered the small kindnesses of insignificant employees. He was wrong. At 9:30, his desk phone rang. Victoria's assistant, her voice tight with urgency, told him to come to the executive floor immediately. His stomach dropped. Had he done something wrong? Overstepped some boundary by taking her home? Victoria's office occupied the entire northwest corner of the building, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She stood with her back to him, her posture rigid, dressed in a sharp navy suit that screamed authority. When she turned around, her face was pale but composed, her eyes red-rimmed but clear. "Close the door, Marcus," she said softly. His heart hammered as he complied. This was it. He was getting fired for seeing the great Victoria Ashford at her weakest moment. "Last night," she began, her voice shaking slightly, "you made my belly bigger." Marcus blinked, confusion flooding through him. What?" She let out a strange sound, half laugh, half sob. "You fed me. Do you remember? Before you left, you made me eat some crackers because you said I'd feel worse in the morning on an empty stomach. No one," her voice cracked, "no one has taken care of me like that in 15 years. The pieces clicked together in Marcus's mind. He did remember stopping in her kitchen, finding some crackers, insisting she eat something. It had seemed like common sense at the time. "I've been so focused on building this company, on proving myself, that I forgot what it felt like to have someone just care." Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she didn't bother wiping them away. "Do you know what yesterday was?" He shook his head, afraid to speak. "The anniversary of my father's death. He started this company. Everyone thinks I'm celebrating our success, but really I'm just trying not to drown in grief every year. She moved to her desk, pulling out a folder. I need to tell you something about yourself, Marcus. Something you don't seem to know. She opened the folder, revealing performance reviews, financial projections he'd created, memos he'd written. You're brilliant. Your analyses have shaped 3 of our biggest strategic decisions this year. But you hide in the background, never speak up, never advocate for yourself. Why? Marcus struggled to find words. I have a daughter. I can't risk my job by being too ambitious or making waves. I just need to provide for her. Victoria nodded slowly. I did a terrible thing last night. I got drunk because I was sad and alone and I didn't know how else to handle it. You could have left me in that ballroom, could have called a car service, could have done the minimum. Instead, you treated me like a human being. You saw past the title and the reputation and just helped. She walked around the desk, standing directly in front of him. I'm promoting you to Senior Vice President of Strategic Development, effective immediately. Your salary will triple. You'll have an expense account, full benefits, and flexible hours so you can be there for your daughter. Marcus's legs felt weak. Ms. Ashford, I don't. Call me Victoria. And you do deserve this. You've earned it with your work, not with what happened last night. But last night reminded me of what kind of company I want to run. A place where kindness matters. Where humanity isn't weakness. She extended her hand. Help me build that, please. 3 months later, Marcus walked through the new employee wellness program he'd helped Victoria design: counseling services, parenting support groups, financial planning assistance. Emma skipped beside him, her hand tucked into his, as he showed her where Daddy worked. Victoria emerged from a meeting, her face lighting up when she saw them. She'd been sober since that night, attending therapy, rebuilding relationships with family she'd neglected. She knelt down to Emma's level. You must be the famous Emma. Your dad talks about you all the time. Emma beamed. Daddy says you're friends now. We are, Victoria said, glancing up at Marcus with genuine warmth. Your daddy saved me, actually. He reminded me what's really important. As they walked Emma to the company's new childcare center, another initiative they'd launched together, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. Not just for himself, but for the future they were building, one act of kindness at a time. That night, when he read Emma her bedtime story about the brave knight, she interrupted him. Daddy, you're like the knight. You help people. Marcus kissed her forehead, his heart full. We can all be knights, sweetheart. Sometimes being brave just means being kind when no one's watching. In the darkness of her room, he thought about that rainy Thursday night and how a simple choice, to help someone who needed it, had transformed everything. Victoria had been right. He'd made her belly bigger with food and care, but she'd made his life bigger by seeing him, truly seeing him, for who he was. Sometimes, he realized, the greatest power we have isn't ambition or status or wealth. It's the courage to be human in a world that often forgets what that means. And sometimes, one small act of decency can create ripples that change everything.